Well, I'm Danielle, if you guys didn't know. If you can't tell, I'm nervous. I'm not a public speaker. I don't speak to people on a large basis like this, but I can talk forever one-on-one. So we're gonna get through this together. I don't actually know how long it is. I was gonna do the whole trial run, see how long it took, and then life. So we'll see how long it is. But with that being said, the whole stop it, Rafer. Okay. I know, because Jenny always takes hers off, so I was like, let me take mine off too. Anyways, so Rafer asked me if I could do this, and almost immediately I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That does not sound exciting to me. And then it occurred to me that Rafer says nothing, but he doesn't do anything unless Jesus tells him to. So who am I to be like, oh no, Jesus, I don't want to do that because Rafer asked me, because it's uncomfortable. So I also have it written down, so I'm going to be looking down a whole lot. So we're just going to get into it. He mentioned within the last year, if I could just kind of say what God has done within the last year, and it's a little bit longer than a year, so we're just going to dive into it, okay? So growing up, I grew up in the church. It was very more habitual than relational, if that makes sense. So it was more, we were there every Sunday morning. We were there Wednesday afternoon or evenings. They had the dinners. It was so much fun. It was so good. So I was really there for the socialization aspect of it and not really the other part of it. But it was fun. It was great. I loved it. But with that being said, growing up in the church, I was never really able to actively identify God working in my life. Does that make sense? because you're young and you're like, oh, God provides. They teach you God provides, but it's my mom made dinner, my dad bought my clothes for school. So it's yeah, God provided, but my dad bought it. So it's it was hard to make that connection of God providing when you're young, you know what I mean? And so that was kind of difficult to kind of identify. And then, it kind of sounds bad, and I feel we might all have been there, where you hit a low point in your life and you're like, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go? And then it's well, Jesus, So back in 2019, it hit a very, very low part, and it was very hard. It was very difficult. And so I was like, well, what do I do now? And then it was, let me try to actively seek that relationship out. Let me try to define that relationship, because I didn't really know. People ask me oh, I'm a Christian. What does that mean? Well, I go to church. That was my answer. And so I started actively seeking it out, and I was trying out a few churches and stuff like that. I went to one a few times, and it was good. It was very smaller than this, but it was an hour drive there, and that was just a lot of work for me. And I just didn't want to, honestly, I just didn't really want to do that. And I know some of you probably know Mallory Davenport. I actually messaged her back in May of 2019. And I was actually it was probably August. And I was hey, I know you go to Oasis, where's it at? Because Google was not helpful. And so she told me where it was, and I was okay, let's go. And so I went, and it was the weirdest feeling, because being a new person, and I've known Rafer and Jenny, for however long. I've known a couple people there for a little bit, but you're still a new person in a new place with other new people to you. And so it was very kind of nerve-wracking again, because you're I'm a new person. Let me just sit here and twirl my thumbs. I don't want to talk to people. But there was something welcoming about it, and there was something that kept me going back, which it was Jesus, let's just, call it out. So then we're going to fast forward. So that was, 2019 summer-ish. We're going to fast forward to April of 2020. This is a lot of jumping around, but it's all the important stuff, I promise. So we're in April of 2020, and I had been going to the church regularly-ish. Well, things got hard again, because that's just what life does to you. And I had to then find my own apartment, which at this point, I've not ever lived by myself. I've paid a couple bills here and there, but I was not in a position to take on the full financial responsibility of anything, which if you knew me back then, I was a rep. come payday, people are like, yo, I got paid. Me, I was like, crap, I got paid. Also, I'm sorry, I just said that in church. Sorry. But so that was me. I was like, it made me so nervous and anxious because I was like, this small amount of money, what is this supposed to pay for? This isn't going to let me do anything. Not even like, you know, go buy coffee. Like, this isn't even gonna let me pay my phone bill. You know what I mean? So I was not getting a lot of money at all. And then I find myself in a position where I now have to find my own apartment and pay for it, in addition to everything else. And at this point, my relationship and my walk with God was more consistent. And honestly, if I think back hard, I could probably like pinpoint things that he was doing during that time. But like on a broad spectrum, I was just kind of like, we're just living, you know, we're just living life together. So here I am, I'm at work on like a Thursday, you know, I work in Portales, and things hit the fan. And I was like, okay, Google. Like, I'm sitting on my work computer and I'm Googling apartments, and I find one that had been posted for a day. And I call the guy, he was like, yeah, come look at it. So I didn't even ask my boss. I told him, I was like, I have to go. And he was awkward. He was like, okay. So I just left, went to go look at it, and it was, I still live there, so clearly it worked out. But, you know, so I like filled out the application, and I had to pay the application fee of $35 or something like that. And that was, again, very stressful. $35. Like, I feel like we've all been there, but just thinking back, that's just kind of like, I feel like that's one more thing of like where I've come to like to now, and like how God's moving is like, now I'm like $35 bit, let's go, you know? But back then I'm like, $35, I can't do this. Like, it was so stressful. Well, so then on top of the $35, they needed first month's rent and the deposit, which was about the same. Now, individually, I could handle both of those expenses, but together I could not. So I was like, asking the landlord, like, what can we do? Can I pay this over the course of like my next paycheck? Like, do you need it today? And he was very nice. He was like, no, we can do, you know, you could do portion it out. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna make it work. Like, just crying the whole time. Also, I'm a crier. If you guys didn't know that, I cry for everything. So I'm just crying the whole time, trying to figure it out. Well, check it out. We got the first stimulus. So I was able to pay for all of it and get myself a couch. So look, Jesus. Well, then at this point, so that was April. So like mid-pandemic, I decided to just get an apartment and obtain all these expenses. Mid-pandemic, my hours are cut. I feel like a lot of us felt that. If you didn't, well, you're lucky, you specifically. I didn't call you out, Tasha did. You're welcome. I called him out though. You know, so, and my hours were cut, and my boss was being less than kind to me. So I also decided to quit my job in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of obtaining all of these bills, which, thinking back on it, it's giving me anxiety just talking about it. But in the moment, I was like, we're good. Like, I was so calm, and I was so okay with the fact that I was leaving the steadiness of this job and like the security of this job because of the environment and the situation. And I went to go work at Lowe's Home Improvement. It was a little bit more pay, but the hours, it wasn't a full-time job. And like, I actually went through, like, as I was like writing this out, I went through and found like my pay stubs from Lowe's, and it was anywhere from $500 to $600 a paycheck. So let's do some math. That's like $1,000 to $1,200 a month. My bills exceeded that. So look, again, Jesus, I don't know how I was able to do it. I have no idea how, but there we go. So again, had me stressing. Well, now we're in August of 2020, and I get a job at the Nazarene school for a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love it. Like, let's go. It's going to be such a good environment. Let's do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to figure out Tuesday, Thursday, you know, because you still need a full-time job. You still need to be working all these hours and getting all this money. So I was like, we're just going to, you know what? We're just going to make it work. It's okay. Like, I was not stressing, which again, if you know me, like, kudos, go me. I was not stressing about it. Well, then, like 2 days after I accepted the position at the Nazarene, I get a phone call from somebody who is, for like a couple of months, had been actively looking for me specifically to take over the medical billing at this doctor's office. And so then I was like, okay, like, sure, just this is my schedule now. Like, I'm only available Tuesdays and Thursdays. And she was like, bet, let's go. So I was like, okay, what? So look, Jesus. So then I start working these 2 new jobs within like a week of each other. And again, if you know me, the stress and anxiety that would have been about me was just not there though. So then I start working, and it was crazy, but it's okay, we were chilling. And so then the whole time I was just focusing and working on the relationship with God. So then I just had that calm and the peace of, it's gonna be okay. Like, it's gonna work itself out, because like we all know, I'm sure everybody knows a little bit about starting a new job. It's just terrible. You would really rather not. Like, a lot of people stay in a job because of the comfort and security, regardless of the situation and the environment. So, but like, God has had his hand in that whole situation and my whole life, this whole time. So anyways, moving on. Those 2 positions allowed me to have like the fun, quirky side of Danielle and work with the kids and do all the things, which children's pastor, hello. And then the other side allowed me to be the seriousness, and not saying that working with the kids isn't serious, please, like, don't say that. But it was more of like the office job, like working on the computer and growing and expanding my knowledge of the insurance and the billing and all of that. And I mean, I learned more than I ever could have imagined. And so, anyways, we're chilling, we're working, we're loving life. It's great. Bills are being paid. I'm living by myself. Bills are paid. And it's like all Jesus. Well, now we're in October of 2020 and I need to renew my lease. So I was like, wow, I made it. Like, let's go. Well, one of the girls at the doctor's office came here for that job specifically and didn't have a place to stay. And I was just like trying to tell her, I was like, oh, well, here's like different landlords in different places in town. And before I know it, I was offering her my second room. Didn't know what was happening. I'm not one to just offer up my room to a stranger. That's just a little scary if you ask me. And again, thinking back on it, like, it was 100% God. Like, God was offering my room like for me to her because she needed it and I needed it also, not the help or any of that, just her specifically, like her entire person. Like, she taught me, I taught her. It was great. Well, she doesn't live here anymore, so that's not great. But she's living her best life in Texas, so go her. So now we're in this year, in 2021. We're in spring, still just loving the jobs and everything. And also, guys, it's not even like to the good part yet. And I just out of nowhere decided I wanted to go to nursing school. And it's not really out of nowhere, though, because I had been thinking about nursing school for years. Like, I can't even put a number on it, but years. Like, we've talked about it years. But I had this idea that since I already have a bachelor's degree, I went through it, I did all the things, I did the stress, I did the work, I did the time, I did the student loans, I did all of that for my bachelor's degree. I was like, I feel like it would have been time wasted if I would have gone to nursing school, because you can go to nursing school out of high school. So I was like, I didn't have to go do that 4-year degree. I didn't have to waste the time and the money and the energy when I could have done that at a nursing school. So that like delayed me a lot in pursuing it. It was a mental hurdle 100% that I had to get over. Not saying that that time was wasted by any means. I loved it. I loved it so much. But anyway, so now I was like, okay, you know what? Like, God, you want nursing school? Okay, let's go. Let's make it happen. How do I make it happen? So I'm praying and praying and praying, and I'm searching and trying to figure out how I can do this. And there was one night, it was heavy, heavy on my heart. And I had to get up early the next morning, and it was just so heavy on my heart. And I was praying, and it was like 11 o'clock, and I was like, okay, God, I have to go to bed. And then that was it. Like, I was praying for like hours. And so I was like trying to figure out, how can I do the bills, and how can I do school, and how can I do all the things, because the nursing program is a very full-time commitment. Like it's like an 8 to 4 thing. I'm trying to think back on our classes. 8 to 4, we've gone 9 to 5 sometimes. So it's basically a big chunk of the day. So I was like, well, okay, I can get a part-time job, work in the evenings, work on the weekends. But I was like, with me living by myself, that doesn't even cover half of the expenses. So then I was like, well, what if I move in with somebody? I love living by myself. So that was a very, very short-lived consideration. So I was like, but even if I were to live with somebody, I still have like my phone bill. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna take a day at a time. Well, guys, it's about to get crazy. So it occurred to me that same night that I was laying there praying that the director of the Nazarene had just got another position. And so he was moving. His wife was the custodian of the Nazarene. And I was laying there praying. I was like, oh, wait a minute. She's moving. Oh, wait a minute. The custodial duties don't begin until after the kids are gone because you have to clean. Okay, and I went to bed. And that was it. Well, I go in there the next morning, and the director's wife had her LPN, so I knew she would be excited and appreciate the whole desire to go to nursing school, which it's not a desire, guys. So rough. It's so tough. So anyways, I knew she would appreciate it. So I walk in there, and I was like, guess what? And then I tell her, and her husband was right there, and then she was obviously super excited because girls are just excited for each other. Thanks, guys. So she was super excited, and then I was like, I just have to figure out, how I can do the bills and pay for stuff and work while I'm in nursing school. And then the director goes, oh, do you know what you can do? You can clean the school. He didn't hear my prayer, guys. Like, he wasn't there. Like, I wasn't talking to him. Like, he brought it up. I didn't say anything to him. Well, turns out a little bit later in the afternoon, his wife told me that the director had talked to the director taking his place that morning. So like before I had even said anything about nursing school, they were discussing it that morning, which I don't know about you guys, but Jesus, like, look at that. That was one of the, like, this whole part coming up was like, sorry, words are hard. It was the like defining factor where I was able to pinpoint like Jesus, like, look at this, look at God, look at what he's doing already. Within, I prayed that night. And then I'm sorry, I'm still shook about it, guys. And for like weeks, I was like, y'all, I'm shook. I was saying that for weeks. Apparently I still am. And so it was crazy because like, he did not know. Anyways, moving on. So then at this point, I was in the financial piece with Rafer, stressing out. He knows a little bit about it. And we're not going to get into the whole thing, but I was thinking about money differently, which, shout out, you said that would happen. So I was trying to figure out how else I can cut my expenses and how I can make this like an easier feat for me so that I wasn't having to take on all of this financial responsibility. So then I was like, what if I sell my car? Like, my parents, there's 2 people and they have 3 vehicles that just sits there. So I was like, I'm sure they'll let me drive it. Hadn't asked them. I was just hoping for the best. So I was going to put it on consignment, which is where the dealer sells the car for you. And then, like they take a portion and yeah. So I went down there and I was talking to him and we were sitting there in the nitty gritty talking about the process of consignment. And he asked my payoff and I told him, and then he just like kind of takes a step back and he pauses. He's like, you know what? I'll just buy it outright from you today. And I was like, what? No, like that's not a thing. You're lying. Like you don't actually do that. And he offered me, and the thing is because he offered me more than my payoff. And I was like, quit pulling my leg. Like you're lying. I seriously did not believe him. I had zero faith that this was real. So I told him, I was like, I need to make a phone call. So I excused myself. I called my boyfriend because he's very, very car savvy. He's done the whole consignment before. And then I called my dad because he's my dad and that's just what I do. And both of them had echoed each other and do it. Like that, no, that's a thing, do it. So even signing the paper, I was like, are you sure? Like, this isn't real. And sure enough, they sold the car. They sent me the check because I got money back to me. So like they paid off the car. So they paid the bank who financed it. And then I even got a check sent back to me. And I was like, dang. And so then this didn't make it, but I just remember. So then, but whenever I got the check back was a time, hold on, I'll get to that. Anyway, so now my parents are letting me drive the minivan that they don't drive, so all the homies can fit in my 7-seater minivan. So let's go. But anyways, look, like there goes Jesus again. Within a matter of like, I don't even remember, but weeks. It's crazy. So now here I am. looking at the prerequisites for the program, because I was like, okay, you know, like at this point it was just talk and like speculation about the custodial position. So I was still kind of like on the fence. I was like, okay, is it gonna happen? I was trying to like finalize things before I got too deep into the school part of it. So I was like, is it happening? Is it happening? And they're like, oh, we'll just talk about it later. And I was like, no, we need to talk about it now. I'm trying to go to school. And so then I'm looking into it, and I had every single prerequisite for the program except one, which I had. It was just 5 years old, so that was fun. But anyways, that one class that I needed was offered online over the summer before the fall program began. So it was offered over the summer online. So I didn't have to miss work. I didn't have to miss out on any money or paychecks or anything like that because it was online. And I was like, dude, what? Yeah. What? Okay. Yeah. Anyways, so I started taking that class, working my billing position full-time over the summer, and I tell my boss, it was very not planned, because she called me into her office and she's like, so what are your plans for the fall? Like, are you going back to the school? And I was like, well, because at this point I had applied for the nursing program. I hadn't heard back from them yet. And I didn't want to say anything. Like, it was very, very deal, because I don't want to be like, guys, I applied for nursing school. I didn't get in, you know, like how sad would that have been? So it was very, very deal right now. And she called me in and she asked me. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to lie to her. So I told her, I was like, well, and I told her the whole thing. And her husband, it was they owned it. I don't know how to say it. Like, they own this business. And I honestly was kind of dreading telling them, because they need to take care of their business. They need to make sure everything's taken care of. I didn't want them to be mad at me. I don't like people being mad at me, whatever. They were so supportive, which was weird because of other encounters I'd had with them. But they were so supportive. And so I wanted to, because they had treated me so well up to this point in terms of like taking care of me and my position, that I wanted to give them ample time to find somebody to replace me. And I also wanted to be able to train that person. So I gave them like a month notice. I didn't want to be there the whole month. I'm not even going to lie. There's no question about that. And I think they knew it. I think they could sense that I didn't want to be there anymore. So they let me go 2 weeks earlier than my notice. So cue the stress. That's 2 weeks of no pay, which, backtrack, that is when I got the refund check for the car. So look at that, perfect. Anyways, so here I am, not working, living my best life, just enjoying all of the free time. It was crazy. I didn't enjoy it enough because I miss it so much right now. And then Jenny calls me and she was like, hey, there's a Jackie Hill Perry conference in Dallas on this day. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah. What is it? I had never heard of her. And so, you know, she tells me about it. I'm like, let's go. I want to go. Let's do this. Like, let's do all the things. And you know, again, at this point I wasn't working, but I was like, I'm going to this conference. Like, I will put up my money. I've got money in my savings. Like I want to go to this conference. Well, I didn't have to pay for anything. The trip was paid for by the graciousness of Oasis. So look, Jesus, we all went. I was only responsible for my food, which I still spent a lot of money because food. But it was so good though. Like, the conference was so good. It was crazy. It was so good. Anyways, well, we returned on a Sunday. It's like August 1st, I think. Who was there? August 1st is a Sunday? Yeah. Well, then on Monday, August 2nd, I get an email that I had been accepted into the nursing program. So, cue the jumping, the hooting, the hollering, everything. I was trying to call all the people that I could tell, but then I was like, no, I gotta tell them in person. And so then, like, I went and I told my mom, and I don't know if you've seen my mom, she's like this big, but she was all cute, like jumping around, all her excitement. And so we were super excited, and that lasted about like 2 hours. And I was like, okay, how do I pay for this? You know, because again, I wasn't working at the time. So I was like, okay, let's go. Let's figure it out. And that was the thought process I've had through the whole thing is it's gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna figure this out. Like, obviously God is very actively working in this whole situation. So let's make it, let's go. So then, I was thinking of how to pay for it, and I was like, if I really need to, I can take out student loans, but financial piece, I don't want to do that. You know, I still have one. I don't want to add to it. So I was like, okay, what can I do? If I really, really need to, I can take the money out of my savings. But then, thought process, let me walk you through it. Me being the custodian at the Nazarene, whenever they're closed, obviously the school isn't used, so it doesn't need to be cleaned. So I have the week of Thanksgiving, I've got the, 3 weeks of Christmas. So I was trying to think ahead of, well, I don't want to drain my savings now for school when I still have to pay rent in December or January. So I was trying to figure it out, and I was like, whatever. Well, one of the downfalls of having a bachelor's degree is that takes you out of any running for financial aid through the FAFSA, because they're like, you're already at it. Like, why are you going back? And I'm like, same. Why am I going back? Very valid point. Like, why are you going to continue to put yourself through this? And I don't actually have an answer for that. So then I was like, I was very actively in the financial aid office because they were telling me to fill out the FAFSA. I was telling them I have a bachelor's degree. They had that knowledge. I told like 2 or 3 people in person, like one person over the phone. They had my degree. They had my they had all the things they needed to know that I had a bachelor's degree. And they still were like, you need to fill out the FAFSA. So I was like, okay, you want me to jump through these hoops? Let me jump through these hoops. So I filled out the FAFSA, and I go back in there, and they're like, yeah, you don't qualify for anything. Listen, guys, it took everything in me to not scream at that person. It really did, because I was like, I could have told you that. You already know I have a bachelor. Jesus, right? Like, you already know I have a bachelor's degree. Like, what are you doing? I will say I was very assertive in what I needed to tell them. I wasn't aggressive. I was assertive. They had to know that they were screwing me over. So then I was like, let's go. So I was in the financial aid office, and I genuinely was trying to understand what they were telling me. I had no idea. So then I was like, why would you tell me to fill out the FAFSA? You knew I had a bachelor's degree. You knew the bachelor's degree would take me out of the running for the Pell Grant, which that's not even what I was going for, because obviously I know I have a bachelor's degree. So I was like walking them through that. Well, so then at this point, they hadn't even had the FAFSA in their system yet. Like, it wasn't even in their system. So then they were like, well, you need to pay, X amount of dollars to hold your place in the program. And I was like, but why would I do that when I'm waiting for the FAFSA to come through? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd really rather not drop $300 right now. And then, so they were just going back and forth. So I was like, hold on, so you're telling me I have to pay. If I don't pay, then I have to, then I lose my spot in the program. But you're also telling me I can't pay for school until the FAFSA comes in. And this is like a Wednesday. And they said it should be here Friday. Oh, but we're closed Friday. And I'm like, I was trying very hard to be like, so you're saying this and this and this, like, what do you want from me? Because like at that point, if I had to drop the $300, I would have. Obviously, it's important. But then they said I couldn't even pay for school for that portion until the FAFSA came in. So I was like, you're not helping me. And I think they got tired of me in there, because then they gave me a scholarship to pay for the portion to hold my place in the program. So I was like, look, Jesus. I really think they were just tired, because she did it right there. Like, as I was sitting, she was like, okay, you're good. And I was like, so my attitude and demeanor immediately changed. I was like, thanks. I wasn't mean to them. They just had to know what they were telling me was stupid. It was not making any sense. So then, fast forward, like a day or so, I was going around town trying to get some local scholarships. I got 2, so there you go. And then I also got another in-house scholarship from CCC. So here I am stressed about having to take money out of my savings or take out student loans. And then I got full payments for the whole semester, and I got money back, guys. Look, Jesus, I got money back. After stressing out about money, I got money back. Well, then here we are, middle of the semester, crying every day, not really every day, stressing out about school, because that's what I do. And I get an email saying that I was like qualified, or that I was like qualified for like a COVID relief scholarship or whatever. Well, the email looked like the most shadiest email I'd ever seen. It was like this weird thing, and then at the bottom it was like a picture that was put in there of the person's credentials from CCC, and I was like, okay, whatever, that's not real. You know what I mean? And I was we were on our break from class whenever I saw the email, so I was like, whatever, I'll deal with that later. I get home after class, I go and check my mail, and there in the mail is another refund check from the school. Look, Jesus, guys!
Yes.
More money! I didn't even bother calling and asking because who's going to ask questions about free money? So
Let's go.
So I did not have to pay out of pocket for anything this semester. Like I did, but those refund checks obviously like paid for it back. So that was crazy, so crazy. I've never really been so sure of anything before. And it's hard, it's so hard. Like this week alone, I was telling probably all of you guys, because I just talk about it all the time apparently, that this week, including my 4-year bachelor's degree, this week was like the hardest week I've ever had in school. It was so difficult. But look at me on a Sunday. I made it. Yeah. Look, Jesus. So then, look, Jesus. It's crazy. Like, it's wild, guys. It really is. I'm just like in awe right now, just thinking back on like how I can so definitively and confidently say like, this is Jesus. Like I am here because of Jesus, because of God. Like I'm standing up here because he told Rayford to, and who am I to say no? You know what I mean? Like, because believe me, I don't want to be up here right now. I don't know if you can tell, I'm like anxious. I'm like moving around. I don't know what to do with my hands. But it's so good. And I find myself obviously stressed out a lot. I'm sure you know, it sucks. But I keep telling myself, and it is an actively, I have to remind myself like almost every day, like God brought me here. So like he's not gonna stop. Like he's gonna see me through. He's gonna continue the journey with me. Like he's not gonna leave me hanging. And no, it doesn't make anything about what I'm doing easier, but it does because I'm not doing it alone. Even though I've got so much support here with you guys, and I do truly mean you guys because I don't talk to anybody else outside of you guys. Well, Kirsten, she's not here. But like I have so much support here with my church family and I love it. But it's also just knowing that it's like when I'm at home studying, obviously by myself, like it's not that I'm by myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's giving me the strength and the energy to stay up like another hour to study and not fall asleep on my notes. So anyways, so now that I am working somewhat full-time. It's not really full-time. It's like full-time pay, but it's not really like a full-time hour-wise. It's hard. It's real hard. It takes up a lot of my energy. I don't really see people anymore because I'm in school and then I have to clean in the evening and I'm done at 8 o'clock. And then at that point, it's time for bed because that's just what you do. And so it's very tiring and exhausting. It's not that the job is physically taxing. It's just I'm on the go like the whole time, like all of my days, all of the hours of the day. And so that's difficult, but again, like it's not me that's doing it. Like it's not my energy that I'm using. It's the energy that God has given me. And so then again, multiple times when I just question, like, can I do this? Can I do this? And I mean, this last week I was questioning, can I do this? And like a couple of months ago, I even considered quitting the job and taking out more student loans to pay for like rent and stuff like that because it was so hard. It was so difficult. It was very, very hard and it sucked. And you can see it in my test scores, and I'm not talking to you because you say they're fine, but they like when you average something and then it like drops, it's like you can see, you know what I mean? And what did it drop to? Listen, we don't need to talk about it, okay? No, because I know you're going to say something. I know you're going to say something. You will understand, so I love you and I appreciate you.
It dropped from an A+ to an A-.
Listen, when you go from a 100% on your first exam to like an 84, but also listen, the nursing program, you need a 78 to pass. You need a 78 to pass. So an 84 is more towards failing than passing.
And it's still enough. It is.
At the same,
We support you.
you're gonna make me cry. At the same time, guys, we're starting our clinical rotation this week where we're actually at the facility, and I'm going into, so like clinical is like a separate class, like it's a part of a class, and I'm going into the clinical rotation with an A. And that gives me so much freedom to also, like, I'm worried about the grades and I want to do well and obviously not put the residents like at risk for anything like that. But at the same time, I don't have to worry and stress about certain deductions and I can just be there for the residents. So like working hard the last couple of months allowed me the stress-freeness. And I say stress-free, it's not stress-free, let me just tell you. But it took a lot off my plate to where I don't have to worry about this being the reason that I fail. If I fail, it's gonna be for something else, but not this. So anyways, sorry, I'm like going back to my notes. That wasn't actually in my notes. But yeah, I've had multiple conversations with multiple people here, again, that it's not me doing it, it's God that's seeing me through the whole thing. Sorry, I like already covered all of this. Oh yeah. Whenever I think back about it, it truly makes me speechless about how I got here, because again, it wasn't me. And I think I was talking to Riss about it, that it's like, yeah, I do believe that God was gonna see me through, but I'm not gonna sit and do nothing. Like, I'm gonna do what I need to do to allow that to happen. With that being said, going around town and looking for financing and all of that stuff. But I truly, like, I feel speechless, like, every single time I think about it, because of all the things that God has done within the last, year? Like, just with the whole thing of school and financing and my car, and that money is no longer a stressor for me, because he knew I was gonna be in school stressed to the max. So he's like, I got you, like, we'll take care of the money part of it. So yeah, so I didn't have to pay for school. He provided financing. He provided my apartment. I truly believe that. It was on the market for a day in a nice neighborhood with stupid cheap rent, guys, let me tell you, stupid cheap. And I got that, and then the job, and the fact that the job works almost perfectly with the school schedule. Like, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, right.
What?
Right.
I'm still shook, guys.
Yeah.
And that happened a minute ago. And all the other opportunities that I've received, like, it's crazy. Like, it's all God. Part of it that truly helps with the walk with God is, it's like a constant reminder to myself of like God, like I have to keep telling myself, like, subconsciously, like, stop freaking out, like, why are you stupid? You know what I mean? But then it's also you and you and you and all of you guys here, and the community that I have here that is so special to me and so important, and just probably the most important part of the walk with God is just knowing we're not doing it alone. And it's that, I'm getting emotional. Moving on.
I think it Crocs every time. Oh my god.
Of what?
It works. I think it's Crocs.
Crocs? Guys, we were at our clinical site yesterday, or Friday, sorry, this is a side note, and they were wearing Crocs. But then for us in our uniform, we have to wear like gray tennis shoes. But then these, like, the actual employees are just walking around in their Crocs, and I'm like, what if you slip, dog? Like, like, you're in the shower, like, what if you slip? Anyways, so when I like do the whole recap of everything God has done, and it truly has just been within the last year, a year and a half. What are we in? 2 years. Yeah. Something like that. It's crazy because I feel like it's so easy now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like for me specifically, like when you're in high school, it's like you're in high school, obviously your mental capacity is greater than that of a child. So it's like you can understand now, or like you can kind of have this idea of how your relationship with God is supposed to look when you're in high school, when you're in college. But again, like I was in college and like my school was paid for. Like my parents were still sending me money and my car was paid for. They were still paying my bill. So it's like I was just going to school. Like I was just going to class. You know what I mean? So like looking back and like looking now, it's like it's almost harder to not follow God and to not follow and like to not listen. Like not even to not follow, but to not listen and to not identify and to be able to see all the things that He's done in my life. And it's like, it's weird because there's like some days where it's like just something small and I'm like, oh dang, hey, like, what up, Jesus? You know what I mean? Like that was you, like, you know, it's just crazy. But with that being said, comes back to like the community also makes it easier. And it's like harder because it's like, you guys will hold me accountable. I know you'll hold me accountable. I know you'll hold me accountable. I know, I just know all of you guys will hold me accountable. Be like, well, what were you supposed to do? And I'm like, not what I did. You know what I mean? So that's good. That's so good. But I don't know. I just find myself speechless. Like I don't actually have words for how amazing like God has been in my life and how like I wish I had words. Yeah. I wish I had words to like describe it, but I don't because it's just so good. The only words I have are just the examples of everything that he's done because oh, yes, dog. I totally was going to mention that, but it wasn't in my notes because I was going to go off of what you said. It wasn't in my notes. But yeah, no, seriously, that was like the refund check. That second refund check. I didn't need it, but I still used it.
Think, like, how stressed you were, and
yeah.
God knew and he provided for you.
Listen.
Every single situation, like he already knew that for you, and he is still with you in the journey.
Yes.
Providing you with people.
Yes.
To help you through that, because it's not over,
Oh.
To think about
It's not close.
A year ago, or however many years ago, like the steps in this scenario.
Yeah. It's so crazy to think about. And how stressed I got out whenever paycheck rolled around, like pay periods. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this money? Like, it was more of just, part of it was like the uneducatedness of me because I was trying to figure out how to be on my own to pay bills, but I wasn't in a position where I could. So I was like in this weird like limbo phase. And like you say, like he knew I was stressed, but look at me now, paying bills and stuff.
Those stressful situations to look back at it now and be like, that.
Yes, because he was there. Yes, that's exactly it. And that's like, it was, okay guys, I say I cry all the time in school. I've cried like 3 times. Like, it's really not as bad as I say. It's hard. It's very hard. It's very stressful. And I think because of my history of being a crier, I expect to cry more. And I actually haven't. And it's because I keep telling myself and reminding myself that I can do this. Like, and it's not, because he brought me here. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, what is it that we learned that it's like he's not going to give you anything that you can't handle? Something like that?
Oh, yeah, Nani posted it the other day, something about like, he is going to give you stuff, I can't remember.
I don't.
But yeah.
I'm not on social, so I don't know what she said. But you know what I mean? So he's not going to give you something that you can't handle. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy though. You know what I mean? And that's like what I just keep telling myself a lot. And I actually have to do it a lot because I don't have any energy to do anything and coffee's not working for me anymore. So it's really God of being like, don't worry, here's your energy for the day. And I'm like, okay, let's go. The people. Mm-hmm. 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 And it's so good. Like, with me getting home at 8 o'clock, I very rarely eat dinner. I very rarely eat dinner because I get home, I'm tired, and I'm like, all right, pizza rolls, cool. Let's have some chips and go to bed. Rafer and Jenny, roll through, like get a to-go box. Blaine and Casey, roll through, get a to-go box. And I'm like, no, that's weird. Like, what? I'm not actually eating dinner with you guys. And they're like, come get you food. You know what I mean? But it's like, again, the people helping with the whole process. And I'm still shook, guys. I don't actually have words. I'm just in awe of everything. So good. Like, I literally cry because I'm like, look what Jesus did. I literally cry. This is me holding it together. How am I doing? But I can't believe he said cry. But anyways, well, that's all I have is just in awe of everything that God has done in my life. So